I think at this point, Lively's team very strongly believes that if they're able to add more women officially to the lawsuit, that the claims will look more legitimate. But at this point, I don't think Jenny Slate or anyone else on the cast really wants to jump aboard the Plantation Khaleesi's yacht that seems to be sinking rather quickly.
You remove all this context in your lawsuit with these text messages, but now Justin has to just sit with his tail between his legs and wait?
Baldoni, by contrast, hasn't resorted to underhanded moves. He's letting facts do the talking. Her frantic claims aren't sticking with the courts or the public, and they are livid about that video and showing that Blake's not being honest in the way she told her story. Anyone familiar with Hollywood knows it thrives on gossip, but its fears toward those labeled as frauds. Blake's not just disliked, she's despised for her efforts to manipulate outcomes at every turn. She's proven she'll say or do anything to keep her name in lights, yet the industry sees through it now and wants nothing to do with her. At this point, she's treading on dangerous ground. Producers, directors, and fellow actors believe she's a risk both personally and financially. Her response to that video, mind you, was, "So thankful for the video. This proves that I was uncomfortable," and everything that she's saying. She's bleeding fans by the minute. People who used to cheer her on now say they feel deceived by someone who will lie if it serves her interests. On the flip side, Baldoni's support is skyrocketing. Audiences see him as a breath of fresh air, someone who brings facts to the table while Blake concocts sob stories.
I mean, the audacity of this is crazy. It's literally crazy.
This saga exposes how quickly Hollywood can turn on someone. One day you're pushing your narrative, the next, a judge's ruling shreds it to pieces, and you're left scrambling. Lingering trust vanishes fast in show business, and once it's gone, there's no easy road back for Blake. There's almost no path to redemption. She's refusing to own her actions, clinging to a self-made story that hardly anyone believes. Where does that leave her? With producers backing off, fans abandoning her, and a reputation sinking by the day, industry circles are notoriously ruthless. When they smell desperation and deceit, they move on. Blake smells blood in the water. This strong consensus underscores just how deeply people resent Blake's manipulative conduct. Hollywood's question is no longer will she win or lose the lawsuit, but rather is her career salvageable? The industry isn't known for kindness, and comebacks require authenticity, something Blake refuses to show. She's still insisting she's the real victim despite the evidence. Observers doubt she'll regain favor anytime soon. Agents, producers, and studios prioritize profit and reputation. They see Blake's toxic image turning off audiences. A star who sparks boycotts or negative press is a massive liability. They can always find someone else who hasn't torched their credibility.
So yes, you are affecting the DV community. Also falsely asserted that Lively Reynolds' party had raised concerns about his unethical and unprofessional behavior only because Miss Lively is fearful of the truth.
Disappointed fans speak out in droves, furious that they supported her for so long. They see her courtroom lies as just one part of a bigger pattern of manipulation. The conversation boils down to this. If she's lying under oath, how many other lies has she told? Baldoni, meanwhile, basks in positive attention. People follow him online out of curiosity or solidarity. He doesn't need to parade around for sympathy. Blake's own implosion did the work for him. Even conservative bloggers who rarely touch celebrity drama are siding with him, praising his honesty. Blake's furious rants only confirm how deceptive she is.
Mr. Friedman has made it apparent that he is engaging in this extrajudicial campaign to influence these proceedings in the public perception of legal filings to the court, and they're already in serious risk that his misconduct is tainting the jury pool.
This saga exposes how quickly Hollywood can turn on someone. One day you're pushing your narrative, the next, a judge's ruling shreds it to pieces, and you're left scrambling. Lingering trust vanishes fast in show business, and once it's gone, there's no easy road back for Blake. There's almost no path to redemption. She's refusing to own her actions, clinging to a self-made story that hardly anyone believes. Where does that leave her? With producers backing off, fans abandoning her, and a reputation sinking by the day, industry circles are notoriously ruthless. When they smell desperation and deceit, they move on. Blake smells blood in the water.
The planned website will release what Mr. Friedman self-servingly proclaims will be full unedited WhatsApp, text, and email exchanges between Lively and Baldoni, although neither the media nor public will have any way of knowing which communications Mr. Friedman has selectively omitted from disclosure.
The one steady stream of roles is drying up. Good luck booking a blockbuster if your name guarantees drama and negative headlines. And if that weren't enough, the judge's ruling also triggered people to share stories about how she treats those around her. Staff, colleagues, and insiders describe controlling, aggressive behavior. For a long time, she managed to squash or spin those stories, but now, with everyone watching, her efforts to hide the truth mean nothing. The result is simple. Hollywood doesn't trust her, fans are outraged, and the meltdown proves she's incapable of handling adversity. Her repeated attempts to manipulate the public just make her look more sinister. In a town full of big egos, you really have to push people to rally against you this hard. But she did exactly that.
Kill that piece. Beyond all that, how bad do you think these quotes really are for Blake and Ryan?
Ultimately, people are asking if she can ever recover from such a colossal self-inflicted catastrophe. The pattern of misconduct, the arrogance, the underhanded maneuvers, it all adds up to a career killer. Hollywood has no patience for a star who drags everyone into her mess and tanks box office potential. She did this to herself by believing she was untouchable. So yes, you are affecting the DV community. Also falsely asserted that Lively Reynolds' party had raised concerns about his unethical and unprofessional behavior, only because Miss Lively is fearful of the truth.
This is bad. Doesn't this show more malicious intent? The fact that WME fired Justin is a huge cause for a lot of the damages that he's now suffering, including the loss of his Pac-Man movie and deals that Wayfair had.
That truth, that she could spin every situation to her benefit, but when a judge slammed her arguments and fans saw through her manipulations, the illusion crumbled. Now she's left flailing with no sympathetic audience left to con. That's the takeaway. In an industry notorious for image control, someone who overplays their hand can fall hard and fast. The evidence backing Baldoni, the judge's ruling, the fan exodus, it all paints Blake as a villain. She can deny it all she wants, but the truth is out there, and nearly everyone is done with her games. Her meltdown is just further proof of her lack of integrity. Each new twist from her side only confirms that she is exactly who critics have always said she was. A manipulator devoid of real honesty.
She didn't come out and make a statement. She didn't come out, with her heart in her hand or say anything. She just kind of allowed this movie to be like an innocent bystander to everything that went on with It Ends With Us.
She shows no sign of remorse or willingness to own her actions. Time may pass, but Hollywood doesn't forget such a dramatic implosion. Once you're labeled a liar and a hostile presence, it's almost impossible to undo that reputation. Blake chose this path by clinging to her distorted narrative. Now she's watching her career crumble in the face of undeniable facts. Mr. Freeman has made it apparent that he is engaging in this extrajudicial campaign to influence these proceedings and the public perception of legal filings to the court, and they're already in serious risk that his misconduct is tainting the jury pool. She has only herself to blame.
What are the real ramifications of this, and does it help that there's now actual audio of it?
I mean, I think, Andy, I think this rises to the level of what we'd almost call a smoking gun.
There's no easy fix. The damage is done. Fans feel betrayed, studios see a liability, and the public wants nothing more to do with her excuses. She gambled on deception and lost big. In a place where everyone is hustling for the spotlight, the moment you're branded as toxic, you're finished. Blake will try to fight on, no doubt, but each new tactic only digs her deeper. The meltdown sealed her fate in front of the world. Baldoni stands strong, backed by evidence, emerging triumphant as she lashes out in fury. Anyone who still supports her is in the minority. The final question is how long it will take even her last defenders to walk away. Blake Lively is spiraling beyond help after the judge's ruling. Any illusion she tried to maintain completely dissolved. Instead of a sympathetic figure battling injustice, she now looks like the prime example of entitlement gone off the rails. Industry veterans are sharing private anecdotes about how long they suspected this meltdown was coming. They talk about how she's always been ruthless in the pursuit of attention, obliterating anyone who got in her path. The planned website will release what Mr. Freeman self-servingly proclaims will be full unedited WhatsApp text and email exchanges between Lively and Baldoni, although neither the media nor public will have any way of knowing which communications Mr. Freeman has selectively omitted from disclosure.
And you know, what you're trying to prove in the defamation case is that you actually suffered damages related to whatever you were defamed about or whatever was mistruth about you.
Producers who might have once eyed her as a box office draw have zero inclination to gamble on her now. One insider described her as radioactive, emphasizing that no studio wants to be associated with her legal fiasco or her sneering attitude because she's shown she'll fight tooth and nail, even when her case is baseless. Nobody wants that liability on their set. Staffers worry about being dragged into her endless dramas, forced to testify or sign NDAs just to keep their jobs. It's a mess no one needs, especially when so many other actors are eager for a chance in the spotlight without the baggage. Casting directors often consult with marketing departments, measuring whether a star's public image can help or hurt a production. In Blake's case, the verdict is unanimous. She is a dangerous bet. Online polls reflect a drastic plunge in audience favorability ratings. Even her previous supporters, who used to ignore the warning signs, can no longer stomach the mounting evidence against her. The meltdown alone, apparently captured on a series of leaked voice recordings, demolished any last shred of goodwill.
And sometimes that's a hard nexus to prove. It's going to be a hard nexus for Lively to prove that her skincare line tanked because of the negative publicity.
The harsh language and vicious insults she hurled at her own team made it clear that her carefully scripted persona was nothing more than an act. Rumors of behind-the-scenes terror have also escalated. Multiple unnamed sources alleged she'd snap at assistants over trivial details, demand rewrites of entire scenes at the last minute, and throw fits if her image on promotional materials wasn't precisely to her liking. Certain stylists claim she refused to pay them after events, concocting lame excuses to avoid parting with her money. Others say she would go on tirades if the angles of a photo shoot didn't flatter her enough. This pattern of never-ending control, combined with her meltdown, now feels like proof that her vicious streak is impossible to hide any longer.
And it was going to be hard for Baldoni to show that any comments that were made about him, since he's been doing so well in the PR war, actually affected the damages.
Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni has stayed remarkably composed. He's released only a few measured statements, citing evidence that demolishes Blake's desperate claims. One entertainment journalist remarked that Baldoni's silence is speaking louder than any PR blitz could. Fans view him as a voice of reason, a person who doesn't need to stoop to theatrics because facts are on his side. The more Blake thrashes around on social media or in front of cameras, the more she confirms her willingness to twist reality. It's not just about losing a lawsuit. It's about demonstrating to the entire industry that she doesn't know how to handle the truth.
Were accusing Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds of promissory fraud. So it wasn't like a major amendment, but it was a significant amendment that they would need time to respond to.
Adding to her downfall are the ex-fans who feel personally duped by her. For years, they believed her shallow attempts at relatability. Now they're vocalizing their anger, filling forums and comment sections with stories of how they've grown disenchanted. They note how quickly she blocked or silenced critics online, how she manipulated interviews to gloss over any controversy, and how she used her influence to bury rumors that turned out to be accurate all along. The betrayal they feel is fueling an ever-growing wave of negative backlash that shows no signs of slowing. At the same time, people in the entertainment media are having a field day dismantling her statements. Fact-checkers easily poke holes in her contradictory stories, exposing how she shifts the timeline or conveniently forgets key details. Some commentators point out her habit of leaning on emotional pleas whenever the facts don't support her. Legal experts see that as a huge mistake. Jurors do not care about crocodile tears if they recognize a pattern of deceit. Analysts suspect that the meltdown was merely one instance of many, showing who she really is when her control slips.
Counsel for Wayfarer did not tell us that they planned to file an amended complaint, including a 168 compendium, which is essentially all those text messages.
Behind the scenes, her management team is reportedly in chaos. Representatives are supposedly panicking, dodging calls from studios, and scrambling to find some miraculous strategy to resurrect her reputation. But damage control experts are refusing to take the gig, calling it a lost cause. A high-profile PR consultant reportedly described her as worse than any nightmare client they'd encountered. Somebody who doesn't just refuse to learn, but actively sabotages any attempt at a coherent defense. The meltdown was a colossal miscalculation. If she had stayed quiet, she might have maintained a semblance of plausible deniability. Instead, her outbursts confirmed everything critics have been saying.
So this was actually a very major thing to say, that there's some party to the suit that has not been named yet. And we should have focused more on that language, because what on earth are they talking about? Who's missing? Who's joining in as a potential willing plaintiff to this case? And we have an answer. As I said, we had a TikToker who had some tea. We had some TikTok tea on this.
Some people speculate whether she'll attempt a dramatic apology or try to pivot the blame onto an unnamed crisis in her personal life. Anything to generate pity. But the damage is so severe that even a tearful confession would likely come across as more manipulation. Critics doubt she has any genuine remorse, arguing she'd apologize only if she believed it could salvage her career. Real contrition, they say, would involve stepping back and accepting accountability, which she has shown zero inclination to do. In the swirl of all this chaos, Ryan Reynolds' name emerges occasionally, but he's said to be keeping his head down. Opinions vary on whether he's distancing himself to preserve his own brand or quietly supporting her behind the scenes. Either way, he seems unwilling to publicly defend her latest outbursts, which many read as a sign that he's no longer willing to tarnish his own image by association. People close to the situation claim she's furious about his silence, seeing it as disloyal. But in Hollywood, self-preservation often trumps loyalty when a crisis is this large.
Listen, I know this is going to sound crazy, but everything that I'm reading here points to the fact that Blake Lively manipulated her audiences and lied to her audiences.
Some longtime observers think she may try to pivot into smaller or independent projects, hoping to rebuild from the fringes. The problem is that indie film circles can be even more wary of big egos and destructive attitudes because they work with tighter budgets and smaller teams. A meltdown on an indie set can be catastrophic for everyone involved. Add to that the negative press swirling around her, and it's doubtful many independent filmmakers are willing to risk their limited resources on someone guaranteed to spark controversy. Network executives have also noticed the wave of criticism. Any talk of her hosting or guest judging a show quickly evaporated once her meltdown became headline news. Why invite guaranteed backlash when there are hundreds of other celebrities eager for screen time and not embroiled in a scandal? She's essentially disqualified from easy reality TV gigs that often provide a fallback for washed-up actors. Even these outlets see her as too big a risk. Meanwhile, Baldoni's supporters continue praising his restraint, noting how he hasn't gloated or rubbed her downfall in her face. That level of maturity contrasts sharply with her constant complaining and public rants. Each day, more people side with him, not necessarily because they idolize him, but because he stands in stark opposition to her chaotic behavior. His team's methodical release of documents and court findings has been especially effective, as it systematically destroys each hollow claim she lobs at him.
And I'm kind of shocked as someone who fully believed her, and he's just basically as psychotic as me.
In an ironic twist, Blake has made Baldoni more famous than he was before. By relentlessly dragging him into her drama, she inadvertently boosted his visibility, and his calm, fact-based approach captured hearts. He ends up looking like the reasonable, grounded one, and while she's hemorrhaging followers, he's seeing a steady uptick in support. In some ways, she's the architect of her own worst nightmare, turning a man she tried to smear into an industry favorite. The meltdown will likely become a case study in public relations classes, how a star imploded by underestimating the impact of real evidence and overestimating the power of manufactured narratives.
And realize that Blake Lively was not telling the truth, and that it was going to be a very steep climb for them to explain why they misrepresented so many things in their initial filing. So he was Team Blake Lively. That's very important to understand. He was not biased against her in any way.
Students will watch clips of her outraged outbursts, read transcripts of her contradictory statements, and realize how quickly a carefully curated public image can disintegrate. The morale is simple. You can't brute force your way through factual contradictions. If you rely on deception and intimidation for long enough, reality eventually wins in the end. There's no indication Blake plans to cut her losses and walk away quietly. She still posts occasional rants online, bashing those she claims are out to get her. Each time she does, the public's reaction is swift and brutal. Thousands of comments reminding her about the court documents, the meltdown footage, and the failure to back up her accusations with tangible proof. It's an endless cycle of denial on her part, and each attempt at damage control only digs her deeper into the hole she created. Blake Lively's Hollywood fairy tale, once shimmering with promise and seemingly unbreakable charm, has devolved into a stark cautionary tale. Her downfall, a self-orchestrated symphony of missteps and miscalculations, serves as a brutal reminder of the industry's unforgiving nature. In a town built on image and perception, authenticity, or at least the appearance of it, reigns supreme. Lively's alleged manipulation, her perceived arrogance, and her explosive meltdown have shattered the carefully crafted illusion, leaving behind a wreckage of broken trust and tarnished reputation. As the dust settles and the spotlight shifts, one question lingers, echoing in the digital canyons of the internet and the hushed whispers of Hollywood backlots. In the ruthless arena of fame, is redemption ever truly possible? Or has Blake Lively irrevocably sealed her own cinematic fate, forever branded as the star who dared to believe her own fabricated narrative, only to watch it all, spectacularly, crumble to dust? What do you think? Let the conversation begin in the comments below. And for more in-depth analyses of Hollywood's most captivating dramas, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. The truth, as they say, is often stranger and certainly more captivating than fiction.